Hey, friends, it's great to be with you on this very special interview we're doing with a buddy of mine, Ryan Visconti from the great state of Arizona. Ryan, say hi to everybody.
Hey, everybody. Good to be with you.
You know, Ryan and I go way back through his dad. Literally, his dad was an intern at the church I worked with in Des Moines, Iowa. And then here, 30 years later, I come across Randy again, and he's got this snot-nosed kid named Ryan that's working with him and has taken over and is running the deal as the lead pastor at Leaders.Church in Mesa. So, Ryan, give us a snapshot of who you are and what's going on out there.
Well, I've been the lead pastor here at Leaders.Church for about 5 years, and I was on staff for a couple years before that, and then I was a captain in the Army before that when I got called into ministry, actually in Iraq.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, I came back and started the church.
So is that, are you trying to make a point for we're not supposed to mess with you?
No, I'm not trying to make that point.
I bet your wife doesn't quite do that, does she?
No, she's very friendly.
Yeah, there we go. Well, I had the privilege of meeting Ryan and his wife here a few years ago, and they have since gotten had a little baby girl, 5 months old. So congratulations to you. We want to jump right into this subject as the whole world is facing this issue of COVID-19, and specifically for churches, we are entering the phase of coming back together in meeting in person. Now, the church has been the church the whole time. We never stopped being the church. But you and I had some email here last week. We're talking about the fact that you have actually started back. So I was just intrigued to hear kind of what your journey had been in April and May coming out of just being locked down, doing things online, and how it came to be that Leaders.Church actually started here, 2 Sundays ago?
Yes, that's right. Yeah. So
tell us the story.
We shut down our physical services the week following March 15th, when Arizona recommended large gatherings be ceased. So we went to complete online ministry. We already had an online presence like a lot of churches, but then that became the primary focus for us. The game changer for us was, obviously, like all pastors, we wanted to meet again, and we were just kind of praying and watching for signals that would open the door to that. But on April 30th, the Arizona Attorney General, he issued a position stating clearly that our stay-home order did not limit churches, that churches were an essential operation, and that we weren't even technically bound by the distancing guidelines that businesses had to follow. They just recommended that we follow whatever safety precautions we can to the extent feasible. So that was a huge blessing to us, because we knew that would give us the opportunity to make decisions and give us a little bit of wiggle room on some things, maybe have some rows 5.5 feet apart versus 6 feet apart. But we knew that we wanted to make responsible decisions, even though we had the choice and the freedom to meet. We knew that there are people in our church who are afraid to come back to a gathering. There are people who are physically vulnerable who shouldn't come back. And we wanted to show our church that we can be trusted as leaders to keep them reasonably safe. And I went into this process. I knew that we wouldn't necessarily be able to become the safest place on earth, but I wanted to be safer than Walmart or Target or Home Depot, which people are frequenting all the time right now as essential businesses. So we felt like if we can be safer and do some key things that will signal we have a plan, we're thinking about their safety, we're not throwing caution to the wind, we felt like we could get a decent percentage of our church family to come back to a physical gathering.
Yeah, cool. Well, describe for us a little bit now. Pastors listening to this will be larger than you, and some will be smaller than you. But talk to me about your auditorium setup. Were you setting up chairs? How did you look before? How did you look now?
Yeah, we have chairs that can be moved, which in this situation has become an advantage.
Yeah, right.
And normally we can get up to about 650 chairs in our auditorium, so comfortably seating 500 to 550 people.
Okay.
So we decided to reduce the number of chairs based on first spacing between rows. We essentially took out every other row, and we spaced the rows about 6 feet apart. We told our church then we would also leave about 2 chairs between family units in the rows. So that brought us down to a chair count of about 375 chairs. Okay. Then we kind of looked at our auditorium and we thought, okay, based on the amount of family units and spacing factors, we think 60% capacity of the chairs in the room is our actual attendance capacity for our main auditorium. So that brought the number down to the 225, 250 range. Yeah. And then we set up an RSVP system online based on those numbers. And we're using the program called Brushfire right now, which our team seems pretty happy with.
Yeah. So that means you had a comfortable capacity of 5 to 550, and now you have a capacity of
half that.
So did you do multiple services?
Yeah, and so we have 2 physical campuses, one in Mesa, one in Ahwatukee. Their auditorium's a little smaller, but between all those venues, we ended up with a total of 8 services.
Okay, that's an increase?
It's actually a slight decrease because we had some services that were geared towards older people, so we knew that they weren't going to be able to show up as much. So we normally run 9. We were at 8, about the same, because I figured that not everybody would be able to show back up initially. And we were able to use the RSVP system to gauge where we were at. If we saw that we needed more services, we could have quickly added more.
Okay, so are you getting any sense of the fear issue? People communicating or just saying, I'm still not quite ready?
Yeah. So, one, I've been seeing surveys from leaders and different, sources around the country. I never surveyed our people. I have a lot of mixed feelings about surveying people.
But yeah, you're talking my language there, buddy.
Yeah.
In other words, you're the leader.
Yeah. That's the general approach I like to take. Yeah. So, we were able to look at some factors and make some guesses about what our attendance would be based on, there's a chunk of our church, like in every church, they should stay home. That's the responsible thing to do. There's a chunk of people, and I was guessing it'd be 20, 30% of people who are open to coming back to church, but they're hesitant. They've got some reservations and they're going to watch and see. That is actually what we saw. For us, we ended up having the last 2 Sundays about 60 to 65% of what would be our regular attendance right now, which we ended up being very pleased with based on some other churches that had opened and the numbers that they saw. It surpassed our expectations, but there was a big core of people who were just hungry and passionate and ready to get back to church.
That's good. You did a lot of things. It sounds like you did a lot of things right. Like anything, leaders look at what they've done in the last couple of weeks and say, maybe we could have done this a little differently. Are there any things that kind of crossed your mind as to things you might have looked at and say, hey, we might try this differently?
Yeah. One of the things that I think of is with the safety precautions that are in place, the environment has become a little bit more controlled. And there are people who are very resistant to that. They don't want to be told where to sit. They don't want to be told when to leave, when they're allowed to come in. And so I think I would have given just a little bit more time to communicating, hey, I know that this is going to be inconvenient in some ways, this process of being told where to sit, not getting your favorite seat in the auditorium. But just please bear with us because this is what it takes to have safe church physically right now. So I think I could have headed off at the pass a few of that kind of stuff, kind of frustrated comments that we got after our service yesterday.
Well, and you told me before we logged on here that you actually really tried to do research with some other churches that were either ahead of you or in the same process. Asking them what they're doing to try to avoid mistakes.
Yeah, we had a staff member fly out to Fellowship Church. Ed Young opened up, I think, first. And so we were able to watch a lot of what they did. And so much of it was great. Face masks that have printed on them, "I'm smiling," or "great to see you," and so just things that make it fun. How they sat their auditorium from front to back and then dismissed from back to front, trying to reduce cross traffic. Those are just great takeaways for us, some fun pre-service elements. But then we were able to learn some things from them, just like, we would learn from anybody who goes first. Yeah. And we were able to make some adjustments based on that.
Yeah.
One of the adjustments we made was, and I know it's different state to state, but we did not require everyone in the building to wear a mask. We made them available, but optional. I think that's one of the things that was a key to our success was I think a chunk of the people who would be the first to come back to church are also the same people who don't want to be forced to wear a mask. It's some of those maverick personalities, let's be honest, like they can be a little bit, don't tell me what to do type of people. So I didn't want to cut all those people off, especially because, at least in Arizona, a huge majority of the people, the shoppers at grocery stores and hardware stores, are not wearing masks. It's maybe a quarter of people. So what we did was we identified volunteers that were going to be at key high traffic locations like the welcome team, the kids check-in team, our ushers, and we required those people to wear masks. And honestly, it was somewhat more about perception than anything. Just that's your first impression. These people are wearing masks. It's safe. There's going to be, and then we had bathroom attendants that wore masks that clean the bathroom completely after every single use. But that was one key factor. The other key factor for us was having kids ministry from the get-go.
Yeah.
And I've seen other churches that we were able to look at did not have kids ministry.
Yeah.
They opened the option to have kids in the main auditorium. What they saw was that there were very few kids in the auditorium. So we kind of keyed in on that. We made kids ministry available. We also made the auditorium available, and we kept our kids ministry going online, which is very strong online.
Yeah.
What we found is what we predicted would happen is what happened. That parents who came to church checked their kids into kids ministry.
Right.
Almost none of them brought their kids into the auditorium. Practically zero. Right. All those services. Right. The parents that were cautious, they just stayed home. Right. The parents that came out, I know that they're cautious and they love their kids too, but they made the decision we're checking those kids in. Kids church, K through 6, and nursery environments. They just checked them in, and we had safety precautions in those environments too.
Oh, that's outstanding. Yeah, that is so good. I know that children's thing really has been a debate issue, so I'm really glad to hear the way you approached it. Give us a hitch up on this, man. I mean, this has been so helpful. So you're talking to the pastor. So just think of the one guy or gal out there, and they're just trying to navigate this. What's a final parting shot you'd like to give that pastor as they're thinking about this whole process?
Yeah, this is a leadership and a biblical and a spiritual perspective that I've been chewing on a lot. And I know that we might make mistakes. We could make blunders along the way, learn from those. But here's what I've been thinking about. In Scripture, you'll find very few examples of God's people playing it safe. We all want to be wise. We all want to be cautious. Wisdom comes from God. But the only times that God's people played it safe, it turned out poorly. Like the 10 spies who said, we can't go into the land. Those giants are too big.
Yeah, too big.
And right now, I'm encouraging pastors to be bold. Be bold and confident as you drive forward. Obviously, there are different dynamics in different states, but we should be leading our community back into comfort and peace. We shouldn't be waiting for our secular community to signal to us when it's safe to meet again. We should be thermostats and not thermometers.
Yeah,
we can change the temperature of our community, and we can teach people, hey, there's hope. You can find peace here. Some of you can't come back yet, but for those of you who are hurting, lonely, depressed, struggling with addiction, we're open for you. That's what I think we see in Scripture, God's people and the church leaders in the Bible being bold and leading the way.
Wow, that's so good, Ryan. Thank you very much. Pastor, I hope you found this to be helpful. I certainly appreciate all that Ryan has provided for us. Again, Ryan's at Generation Church in Mesa, Arizona, if you want to Google that. What's the website, Ryan?
www.generation.church.
Easy enough, generationsingular.church.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
We're all good. Thanks very much for hanging out with us. Make it a great one today, and be blessed.
Thanks, Dick.